The Tale of the Weeds in Kafara. The ancient tiny village of Kafara is located in the center of the Sahel, tucked away between the far desert and its golden dunes. This ancient tale explores the wisdom of a local proverb. It is a lazy man who says, "My farm is overgrown with weeds, and it's because I have no time." Through the story of a young farmer named Amadou, we dig into the themes of responsibility, hard work, and the consequences of neglect. As Amadou learns the value of diligence, the village of Kafara becomes a living testament to the idea that time is a matter of prioritization rather than an excuse for inaction. The village of Kafara, where sunlight bathed the earth with a rosy color, lived a young farmer named Amadou. He was known for his gentle spirit and kind heart, but also for his tendency to procrastinate. Amadou had inherited a small plot of land from his father, a fertile piece of earth that had once flourished with crops that provided food for the entire family for many seasons in the past. However, over the years, Amadou had allowed his farm to fall into disarray. The once vibrant fields were now overgrown with weeds, and the crops that remained were stunted and weak. Every morning, as the sun rose over the horizon, Amadou would gaze out at his farm, feeling a pang of guilt in his heart. He would often mutter to himself, "I have no time to tend to my farm. There are too many other things to do." He would spend his days wandering the village, chatting with friends, and enjoying the simple pleasures of life, all the while ignoring the pressing responsibilities that awaited him. One day, as Amadou sat under the shade of a tree, he overheard a group of elders on their way to the village council meeting discussing the state of his farm. It is a lazy man who says, "My farm is overgrown with weeds, and it's because I have no time," one elder remarked, shaking his head in disapproval. Amadou felt a flush of shame wash over him. He knew deep down that his neglect was not due to a lack of time, but rather a lack of effort. Determined to change his ways, Amadou sought the wisdom of the village's oldest and most respected farmer, Baba Tun. Baba Tun was distinct for his bountiful harvests and the lush fields that surrounded his home. Amadou approached him with humility, respectfully greeted and asking, "Baba Tun, how do you manage to keep your farm so beautiful? I wish to humbly learn from you." Baba Tun smiled softly and invited Amadou to his farm. "Come, my son. Let me show you the way," he said. As they walked through the fields, Baba Tun explained the importance of hard work and dedication. "Every seed you plant requires your care. The earth will not yield its bounty without your effort," he said, his voice steady and wise. Amadou listened intently, absorbing every word. He watched as Baba Tun tended to his crops with love and precision, pulling weeds and nurturing the soil. "You see, Amadou," Baba Tun continued, "time is not the enemy. It is how you choose to spend your time that matters. If you prioritize your responsibilities, you will find that you have more than enough time to fulfill them." Inspired by Baba Tun's teachings, Amadou returned to his own farm with a newfound determination. He rolled up his sleeves and set to work, pulling weeds and clearing the overgrown land. The sun beat down on him, and his muscles ached, but he pressed on, fueled by the desire to reclaim his farm. As each day passes and turned into weeks, and slowly but surely, Amadou's efforts began to bear fruit. The weeds that had once choked his crops were now gone, and the soil was rich and fertile once more. As he planted new seeds, he felt a sense of pride swell within him. He had learned that hard work was not a burden, but a path to fulfillment. As the harvest season approached, Amadou's farm blossomed with life. The villagers marveled at the transformation, and Amadou became a source of inspiration for others. He shared his story, encouraging his friends to take responsibility for their own lives and to not use time as an excuse for neglect. One evening, as the sun set over Kafara, Amadou gathered his age group, especially friends, and the elders in the village around the same tree and addressed them saying, what I have learned this farming season and the story about my prospective heavy harvest began on this very spot where I am standing right now. He spoke passionately about the lessons he had learned. It is easy to blame time for our failures, he said, but the truth is that we must take ownership of our responsibilities. We must cultivate our lives with the same care we give to our farms. His friends nodded in agreement, and the same group of elders who had that discussion on their way to the village council meeting smiled knowingly. They recognized the wisdom in Amadou's words, for they had seen many young men and women fall into the trap of procrastination, only to regret their choices later. As the harvest festival approached, Amadou's farm yielded a bountiful crop, and the village celebrated together. The air was filled with happiness, singing, and the aroma of delicious food. Amadou felt a deep sense of gratitude for the lessons he had learned and the community that had supported him. In the days that followed, Amadou continued to work diligently on his farm, but he also made time for his friends and family. He understood now that balance was key. One could work hard while still enjoying the beauty of life. He became a mentor to others, sharing the wisdom of Baba Tun and the importance of prioritizing responsibilities. As the seasons changed, so did the village of Kafara. Inspired by Amadou's transformation, more villagers began to tend to their farms with care. The fields flourished, and the community thrived. The proverb that had once been a source of shame became a rallying cry for hard work and dedication. In time, Amadou became known as the weed slayer of Kafara, a title he wore with pride. He had learned that the true measure of a person was not in their excuses, but in their actions. The village prospered, and the spirit of diligence spread like wildfire. Podcast format. Morals of the lesson. Host. Welcome to the Kafara Chronicles, where we share ancient tales and the wisdom they hold. Today, we explore the story of Amadou, the young farmer who learned the true meaning behind the saying. It is a lazy man who says, "My farm is overgrown with weeds, and it's because I have no time." That. Host. The first moral of our tale is that time is a matter of prioritization. Amadou initially believed he had no time to tend to his farm, but he learned that neglecting responsibilities is often an excuse for inaction. Host. The second lesson is the importance of hard work. Baba Tun taught Amadou that every seed requires care, and the earth will not yield its bounty without effort. This applies not only to farming, but to all aspects of life. Host. Lastly, we learn about the power of community. Amadou's transformation inspired others in Kafara to take responsibility for their own lives. Together, they cultivated not just their farms, but also their relationships and their village. Host. So, dear listeners, remember that the weeds in our lives can only be cleared through diligence and commitment. Let us not fall into the trap of excuse, but instead embrace the hard work that leads to growth and fulfillment. Thus, the tale of Amadou and the wisdom of Kafara remind us that while time may seem scarce, it is our choices and efforts that truly shape our destinies. In the heart of the Sahel, the legacy of hard work and responsibility continues to thrive, echoing through the generations.